What is going on, my home studio engineers? Thank you so much for checking out the Home Recording Network, and welcome back for day 11 of this 30-day journey to more professional and more polished home studio mixes. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about room microphones for drums and specifically what you should do with them in the mix. In case you missed it, here is the song we are going over this month.
These kings and queens, they all fall, they all fall. Headless back into destined unaware, just what will be done. Looking for treason and overtake the throne.
Yeah, so let's get into this discussion of room microphones and even if you should be using them or not in your home studio. So, if you've watched some of my other videos, you might know that I have a pretty decent sized live room. It's a great room for recording drums. It's got some high ceilings. It sounds really big. So, room mics are a great option for me. I can mic up the room and get some of that natural room reverb into the sound of my drum kit. What I'll do is just place a spaced pair of large diaphragm condensers 10 to 15 feet away from the kit, just facing the kit. Nothing special there. And then what I'll do is I'll actually place a mono room mic in between the spaced pair, but face it backwards. So it's not pointing towards the kit. It's actually pointing towards the wall and it's capturing all the sound coming off the back wall. And this sort of gives just a different perspective on the room. Before I was in this studio, I was actually working out of the basement of my old home. So I had very low ceilings and I didn't have a very big room to record drums in. So if you're in that situation, I wouldn't even recommend miking up the room. It's not actually going to add anything to your kit. If you are in that position and really want to, place room mics or get a different perspective on the kit, you can try maybe placing the mic in a different room next to the room you're recording in, seeing if that sounds cool. Maybe there's a closet in that room and you could actually shut the closet door and see what the mic sounds like in that closet. There's a lot of stuff you can try. I tried a lot of techniques and just nothing really sounded great just because my basement didn't sound great. But having a room vibe mixed in with your kit, I feel is pretty important for your mix. So if you are in a space that doesn't really sound great, I do have a video on creating your own room effects bus. So you can go check that out to see how you can use the tracks that you've already recorded to create an effect send and actually make your own virtual room. So check that out if you don't know how to do that. So let's get into how you should be mixing these room mics so that you can basically add a little extra energy to your drum sound. So down here we have our stereo room mics and then we have our mono room mic right there. And I'm just going to play the drums and I'll bring these in and out. And these actually aren't too loud in the mix, but without them, the drums are just very dry. These room mics are pretty low in the mix, but they're just adding such a cool vibe. And they don't have to be this low. It's really your preference of how much room sound you want in your drum mix. Let's take a look at the stereo room pair. So, with these room microphones, it's not abnormal to add even more reverb to them if they're just not sexy enough. If your room's not big enough, it's not abnormal to throw a little extra reverb. So, the first plugin here is just a room reverb with about 18% wet on. So, let's bypass this and then bring it in. And this doesn't make a huge difference, but like I said, my room is a decent size, but it could sound a bit bigger, and that's what this reverb is doing. Yeah, it's just a touch more reverb to give it more of a room vibe. And then what we're doing next is my favorite thing to do with any room microphone is just add some compression to get some more energy and some more pumping out of these room microphones. And one thing I should mention before we move on to this is if you do add more reverb to your room tracks, just make sure it's a pretty short decay. So this is a 745 millisecond delay. I like to go, no longer than a second. A room sound doesn't really have a long decay on it. It's usually pretty short. So if you want to emulate that with some more reverb, usually go about 1 second. Now, for compression for these room mics, I keep it really simple. I don't reinvent the wheel. I just use the Rock My Room preset that they have here on the Bluey. So this is a great compression setting for room mics. It's a very fast release and a slower attack here. And if we just bypass this and bring it in, you're going to hear that this does add just a little extra energy to the kit. Yeah, and you can really hear it compressing on those snares, which is giving that cool pumping effect that we all know and love. And you guys can even use much more compression than this, and it actually sounds very cool. Because I have the Apollo units, I'm able to compress these a little bit on the way in. So you got to remember they're a tiny bit compressed on the way in, so I don't have to do as much compression in the mix. Now, let's check out the Monorail Mic. And remember, this is the microphone that is not facing the kit, it's actually facing the wall. And what I like to do with this microphone is dirty it up a little bit because, again, it gives a different perspective on the kit. So let's take a listen to this by itself. Yeah, and it actually sounds really cool. So with this, we're hammering it with a bit more compression than we were on the stereo pair. And those are the same settings we used on the other compressor, just the Rock My Room preset. And we also have Decapitator on here, which is a great saturation or distortion plugin. And I'm just using the room driver. So let's bypass this and bring it in so you can hear how it's dirtying up this mono room mic. And that's just giving a little extra character to this mono room mic. And then we can, of course, just blend these in with our kit. So I'll mess with the volume a little bit here and play these with the rest of the kit. You can see how big you can really go with these to give just a cool room vibe to your kit. I hope this helped you out or you learned something. If you did, don't forget to like and subscribe because any growth is super helpful to my small channel and allows me to reach other engineers that might need assistance. So that's it for day 11. Tomorrow, we're going to keep working through the drums, and I think we just have a few days left of drums, and then we're going to start working our way through the rest of this mix. Happy mixing, guys. Hey guys, if you like this video, be sure to download your free Ultimate Home Studio Mix Guide with your go-to EQ and compression settings for all your tracks. And also be sure to register for my free online mix training that I hold a couple times a week so that you can learn how to make radio quality music from your home without breaking the bank.